So you want to get into private lessons. Well, there's a bunch of ways to do it, a bunch of outlets to take, and a bunch of resources you can use. But we're going to tell you all the secrets to finding the one that works best for you.
Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Andrew, and we are here at Alamo Music. Don't forget to visit us at alamomusic.com, and please don't forget to like this video. So today we're going to be talking about private lessons.
Private lessons.
Man, there's so much to it. Whether you're going to be a sixth grader going into it for the first time, whether you're a kid before middle school, or even just a high school senior getting into it for the first time, there's so many implications to getting these lessons. What was your experience getting lessons and stuff? Did you ever, like during like middle school, high school, and all that?
No, I never had a private lesson until I went to college.
Me too.
That was my first experience.
Yeah, I did when I was in middle school and high school. I did well enough, but some people around me were going to get them and everything. We had some resources from like the school, so they would go and do like what were called like master classes, where they have like those private lessons. Teacher come in and then teach a bunch of kids at once. There are some things about that works out really well, especially if you have like dedicated time to it.
Yeah, I've done that for a number of high schools around San Antonio, where I would go in and teach master classes. And I did a bunch of private lessons with mostly beginners.
Yeah.
Up in Northeast, ISD, the Johnson cluster. Up there, Tejada Middle and Tex Hill.
Yeah, I recently, like within the last 5 years or so, I've been teaching a lot of kids going up like the north side, so like on the northwest side and everything.
Right.
When it comes down to it, usually what these are kids, and especially coming out of like COVID too. What ended up happening was a lot of kids got behind with a lot of these programs and stuff.
Right.
And a lot of them just needed a kind of more of an outlet or more attention regarding like how they play and everything. What would be like the best motivator for private lessons? I mean, improvement for sure.
Right. Well, a lot of this is, kind of Texas-centric because of the way things are set up here. I think the vast majority of beginner classes are classes just in that instrument, right? Whereas other places, beginning band is everybody all at once. At least here you can separate, this is trumpet class, this is clarinet class, whatever. And then I would go in and give lessons during those times. So not only were the students getting instrument-specific information, but you could enhance that with the private lessons.
Yeah.
And the kids that had private lessons, almost every single student I had, or the vast majority, ended up doing real well at All-State, either making All-State or just the level below. But almost all those kids had a real leg up on other players.
Oh yeah, and a lot of that has to do with it's a combination of being able to help them figure out how scheduling practicing works. The cool thing about cool thing, not cool thing, but it's kind of in between where a lot of the players are very centered around what's coming up with like UIL competitions.
Right.
So you have what's called like region band, all-state area, all that kind of stuff. And basically what having a private teacher does is it gives us focus on that and the things needed to improve those kind of, being able to play that kind of music, right?
Right.
Play the etude for all 3 months and just, have that all ready to go. Whenever I was teaching, like I even get like some fifth graders and everything that would just go straight into seventh grade, like band, advanced band and stuff. And just having that and being able to teach them how to breathe, being able to teach them how to practice and how to schedule themselves to keep themselves consistent, always a big plus.
Well, and that kind of highlights, the in-person lesson versus online lessons.
Yeah.
Because I know that is getting a lot more popular, but as somebody who's spent a lot of time teaching those lessons, and I've done online lessons, I personally don't care for it.
Right.
I need to be in there and look at how the kid is breathing. You don't always get a good representation of what they actually sound like, just because it's a cheap, microphone for a laptop.
Right, and yeah, the quality is always not going to be there. So when I was in college, I went to UTSA, and my third year in, it was the year of my recital, jury, all that kind of stuff. COVID happened, so I had to do all my lessons leading up to it. In that, I did the whole thing in my living room at my house.
Wow.
It was not great. I think that in-person private lessons are basically the best way to do it. My time doing the in-person stuff in college with my professor, shout out to Rami Alfara, it helped me learn a lot about myself as far as what I like about playing the saxophone, what I like about practicing, and being able to kind of figure that out. But when you do it online, man, it's so
disconnected.
It's super disconnected. And a big thing about private teachers is the motivating factor. When you have a student that's going to get a private teacher or anything like that, the student, this might not be their number one goal or anything.
Right.
There's tons of distractions out there. I mean, this is the first time they're really making choices for themselves in any kind of factor.
Right.
So when it comes to having a private teacher, it sets goals, it sets someone to look up to, it sets motivation and everything, and that's really important if they want to improve.
Well, and you can also give, the parents and the teachers feedback the other way too. I just don't think this kid is a natural trumpet player. I think they should really be on a low brass instrument. Or maybe he should not do this at all.
Right. Yeah, those will definitely come up. I mean, the big thing to remember is that this is your kid's activity when it comes down to it. I've had tons of situations where I'll go in and teach these lessons, and it's very evident that the parent wasn't, the kid wasn't part of this decision. And it can be up to the teacher and stuff to find out what can help them motivate. Like for me, I use a lot of video game music when I teach. It helps keep it relatable. It helps keep it going forward and everything. And it kind of creates goals. I mean, playing memes and stuff like that.
Right.
Kids are going to be hearing it all the time. But the other thing is that it has to, on some level with these kids, especially the young ones, it has to be fun. At
Absolutely.
some level.
Yeah.
And so if it's not, man, the kid's not going to take anything from it. You're not going to be able to really get what you're paying for. Right. One of the biggest things that I see, especially, and this is what I think private lesson teachers can also help with, is band while playing music and personal improvement is a big part of it. Playing in band can also be a huge, it's a camaraderie. Right? You're there with people. It's your clique. It's the people you hang out with the most. You're going to be going on these trips. You're going to be hanging out with them. And a lot of these kids and everything are going to be in band for a really long time. Things that private lesson teachers can also do is figure out what your kid actually wants to do going forward. I've had tons of kids, like seniors in high school, that they were like, oh, I want to be a band director, or I want to perform. And the thing the private teacher can figure out and help the parent figure out for the kid too, and help them make this decision is, are you actually putting in the time to do it? I mean, you're going to have these kids, these kids that do a little of everything, right? They're going to be, running track. They're going to be on the cheerleader squad, and then they're also going to work, right?
Right.
And when it comes to being a performer, what the private lesson teacher is there for is a look into what kind of life they're going to be leading if they want to take it seriously.
Right.
It's so important, and it's a huge choice, and it's a lifestyle that you kind of have to take into consideration. Anyone that's going to go into music, especially these days when it comes to instrumental music or any kind of singing or anything like that, you're going to teach. It's just part of it, especially if you're going to go into education, of course, but if you're going to be a performer, you're not going to be playing every day. So when it comes down to it, it's going to be really important to make sure you have those side gigs, and having a private teacher can be kind of a lens into that life.
Well, yeah, and I've helped people get, gigs playing taps.
Yeah.
At funerals, and, just kind of introducing, the professionalism that they need to have. Like, okay, here's this funeral gig, You need to show up dressed appropriately, like you're going to a funeral.
Oh yeah.
You need to not screw taps up because everybody knows taps. And I mean, that was my first professional playing.
Yeah.
And in some ways, the best job I ever had. I mean, I got paid $800 one time for a funeral.
Well, God
Because
dang.
the funeral home paid me, and then the family paid me. And
I mean, yeah, and
okay,
yeah, dude. I mean, like being at UTSA and stuff like that, my private lessons teachers gave me some of my first opportunities to actually play professionally. And I know I've brought in kids that want to learn jazz. I'll invite them out to jam sessions. I'll tell them where they can go,
Yep.
different community bands they can go and join. I mean, there's tons of opportunity that aren't usually readily available, but the private teacher, they'll have those connections for the kid if they ever want to do it.
right. Well, and when you have kind of a stable of people, and I did this a few times, you know, where you'd have 3 or 4 students at the same school, it's like, you guys should work up this trio.
Yeah.
You know, because the two places I learned really how to play were my private lessons and then playing in small ensemble groups, especially when it comes to playing in tune.
Oh
Because,
my God.
okay, you're in a trumpet section of 6 people, there's room to hide. If you're in a trio, there's no room to hide. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's live.
When it comes down to it, like a lot of these, what the private teacher can do is not only give you that fostering community with those small ensembles, but give you the experience to play in those. Usually when you're in band and everything, your only experience is going to be, you're going to do marching band, you're going to do concert band, maybe solo ensemble, maybe a quartet, but you're not going to get a lot of that attention that is needed for that kind of thing too. And so getting that experience and that exposure to so many different outlets is incredibly useful. Especially if you want to take it seriously. So
Right.
like when it comes down to it. Also, a lot of private teachers, they're coming from a background in education, so they've already gone to some schools. So you can use that as you can use those kids or those private teachers and everything like that as a way into some schools as well.
I've written dozens and dozens of letters of recommendation for students, and that's something a private teacher can do on top of, you know, if the band director is writing one as well. I mean, that only, you know, looks better on an
Absolutely.
application when you have, you know, adults that are sanctioning, like, yes, this person will be an active and productive participant in your music program.
Exactly. And especially these days with social media and ways to look up certain people, you can find out the kind of track record and everything, so you can make sure your kid succeeds in the way you want them to.
Right.
Or the student themselves wants to. I think that getting into it, that the way you can investigate these things and figure out what's right for you is just so huge nowadays. Like for me, one of the pluses is I work in a music store, so I know my kids can at least get the equipment they need at good prices.
Right.
There's tons of different facets to these kind of things that you should look into before looking for a teacher for sure.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I will say thank you so much for watching. Again, remember to visit us at alamomusic.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We would love to know what you think. Tell us when was the first time that you guys got a private teacher. I would love to know what kind of music you guys played up to that point. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.